got to really understand how farming works. Now, mine is a small farm. I have 65 cattle. So it might work more the way that people envision, except because of the stupid government regulations, in order to turn one of my animals into a hamburger, there's this big process involved. I can't go to the local butcher and have him process a beef for me. I have to drive 3 hours on the interstate to a place that looks like a factory and drop my cattle off. And then they go into this factory and they come out as hamburger with the USDA stamp on them. And that's what you have to go through. Now, what happens if the people don't show up to work at that factory because they couldn't get daycare, for instance? Or what happens if the hamburger grinder at that factory quits working and the machine shop is closed? You know, all of that grinds to a halt. And our food production system is a little bit brittle in that way. It used to be more distributed, smaller farms, and farmers used to sell more of their goods locally. But as things consolidated, the companies that ended up as the aggregators, like the meat packers or the dairy cooperatives, they actually welcomed more regulation into their business because it became a barrier to entry for their competitors. And it made sure that the small farmer, instead of selling to consumers, went through that aggregator. And so the aggregators in this system love big government. They're cohabitants.
Yeah.
Literally, the USDA is sitting in the meat processor's plant. Yeah. And then the meat processor has a lobbyist sitting up at the USDA in Washington, D.C. And that's made our system more brittle because now all the food has to pass through just a few small points. And so when transportation breaks down, when daycare breaks down, when all of these things, the secondary and tertiary suppliers to those corporations break down, then the food supply stops.
So this regulatory process that has centralized the agricultural economy has made us more vulnerable in times of crisis, and that'll only be exacerbated by some faceless bureaucrats' determination about what job is essential and what job is non-essential, not having any understanding of how that whole system you just described works.
That's right, and like I said, it's gotten more and more brittle. Now you can say, let's just relax the regulations and let this thing work itself out. Well, the regulations have already killed most of the small meat processors.
Right.
So that I had my wife call up our local meat processor. I was like, you know what? Screw it. Screw the USDA. We're going to get some of these cattle butchered, and we're going to sell them to people. And if they want to take me to jail for it, then screw it. So, but I called him up. Guess what? Everybody else has got the same idea, and he's backed up, for several weeks. And so we've got a brittle system with not enough people who can provide these services because they've already been regulated out of existence.